Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of our podcast series, Beyond Borders with Mancomp. You would have all enjoyed our session with our Ivy League consultant, Mr. Arthiraj, on how to crack Ivy League. Today, we're going to look at the top 50 universities in the world and how a student can crack it. So, welcome once again. And let me start with a very basic query I had. How competitive it is to get into one of the top 50 universities in the world?
Thank you very much for having you with me today.
Our pleasure.
The competitiveness of the best universities depends on what departments you are going to apply to. For instance, the economics department at University of Pennsylvania is going to be extremely competitive. It's going to be more competitive than the computer science program, which implies you should have really good academic grades, you should have really good SAT scores, and good extracurriculars also. So, competitiveness in the top 50 colleges depends on what department you're applying to, rather than university itself being competitive.
It's more program specific.
That's right.
All right, understood. So, in terms of an average GPA, what's a good one would kind of guarantees a student to crack into one of these top 50 ones?
In terms of the GPA, well, a very good GPA is certainly required, even if you're applying to programs which are not competitive, because most of these top 50 colleges do make their decision based on the GPA. Apart from the GPA, you should also have a very good SAT score.
Okay.
That's also going to make your profile more competitive. And apart from that, the extracurriculars and other things are also going to make it competitive. Now, well, of course, most of these admissions, I would rather say, is not heavily based on the GPA score. However, having a very good GPA reflects how good a student you are.
What kind of a number would you put on that?
If, let us say, you are from an Indian ISC student,
Yeah.
and anything about 85 percentile would mark it to be a very competitive profile. There's no doubt about it. However, let's say you've got 80 percentile, and do you ask, that is my profile competitive? If you ask me that question, I'd rather say yes, if you have a good SAT score, if you have good
Kind of
extracurriculars, and
balances.
so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, that's a good start you're given on terms of the grades. Now, let's say the student doesn't have a good grade or a good GPA or a good SAT score. Is there any pathway programs to these colleges which can compensate for them to make it up and still get into one of these top 50 universities?
I'd like to answer this in two different aspects. First of all, a pathway program to the best colleges may not be possible. What the definition of a pathway program in most of the American universities is building up on your deficiencies, not on improving your grades. So let us say, for example, you've studied in a science group here in India, and then you want to major in economics elsewhere in the world, then I think you should be taking up credits and courses in economics so that you build certain foundations in economics
Got it.
and go on to take it. So I would rather call it a bridge program. Calling it a pathway may be a misnomer at this point. However, I would insist on the fact that grades on paper is like a carving on the stone. There is no replacement for having a better grade through any other activities. I don't think so.
That's a good insight again. Now, the whole idea of going to one of these top schools is always great career. That's all. The whole objective of the students and the parents are. Now, how do these top 50 are different, or do they differentiate themselves in terms of internships, in terms of co-op programs, and let's say ultimately job opportunities? How are they, let's say, superior or better off than the other universities outside the top 50?
I should approach this question to you in a chronological fashion. See, in the first year, no matter what university you study, you're not going to get an internship or anything like that.
Okay.
But having said that, I should definitely advise students that the first year vacation is one of the most memorable vacations you should definitely spend, because you would not get an opportunity to spend a very similar vacation on your second, third, or your fourth year,
Very
unless
true.
otherwise it's
Very
your
true.
preference.
Yeah.
Once you come to the second year, you'd certainly get openings for internships in a lot of big companies. A lot of these companies do research in these top 50 colleges, and the student will be placed in these research areas
Okay.
by professors so that they can do the beginning jobs, beginner level research jobs or intermediate level research jobs during their summer. So that'll give a good pragmatic knowledge for the students. So, right from the third year, they'll do very practical research. For example, trying out these recipes on humans and trying to generate data about how this can be applied in practical ways. See, this is how the internships actually go forward. The first one would be more an academic exploration, the second one would be more a pragmatic exploration, which will definitely build up a lot of these employment skills and other things like that. See, basically, these people who graduate from the top 50 colleges, they don't go and work in a place where one guy gets out, the other guy gets in. It's not kind of that job. It would be something about a new thing, developing a new thing, so on and so on.
Got it.
So that's how these skills are actually segmented in the education.
Great. That's good to know. That's where they stand out. It's a very differential as to why these kids have gone to a top school and they stand out for their
That's right.
performances.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back again a little bit on the starting process of this whole, students getting into the top universities, what sort of admission process do they have to go through? And will there be an interview? And how do they have how does the selection process go beyond the grades and the SAT scores?
Beyond the admission, the grades and the SAT scores and other things like that, if the student can, show his commitment and passion in that particular field in a wide variety of ways. For instance, let's say somebody wants to become a food engineer. The best place to start is to go take up an internship or a part-time job or a voluntary service in any of these kitchens or restaurants. Once they work practically, they will definitely get a good understanding of what the field is. It's not just about that, it'll also influence them in understanding what subjects and what areas of the subjects they are learning will impact the sector in which they are going to work. For example, in economics, there are quite a lot of things you can do just by sitting at a single place because all the data is currently available right now in the internet. So there are a lot of things creatively students can do to present their skills, to showcase their abilities.
Ability as well.
In terms of gaining traction to their passion and commitment towards academic work. It should start right from 9th standard and should continue in the 10th standard vacation, the 11th standard, and almost will come to an end at the 11th standard because at the 12th standard, the grades would extremely become more important. So it should quite be started early, and practical work is the best solution to it. And I do offer consulting services for these sort of things with a lot of students.
Awesome, yeah.
A lot of them. And I always work with creativity is the investment into this. If you're creative enough, please come. I'll be more than willing to help you.
Yeah, that's so very important. I see that a lot of schools today, international schools or even CBSE schools, facilitate internship for students. So getting the practical experience is very good. Do they also have to go through an interview process, part of the selection into these top 50 schools?
Yes, you see, interviews are an integral process of admissions. At every stage, for instance, let's say you're applying generally to an undergraduate college, you might have an interview from the department chair. And most of the questions from the department chair will be about why did you have to join for this program? There are students who get interviewed with deans of the colleges. Deans of the colleges are interested more to understand what you can contribute to the university. Sometimes people go on to contribute to the diversity of the university.
Yeah.
So all these things, of course, when you have to clear it up, it's of course through only interviews, they'll come to know you far better. So interviews are an integral process of admissions.
Last but not the least, the parents always ask questions about, and the students also know about financial aid and scholarships. I want to know how the SAT scores and the grades kind of tie into the financial aid and scholarships. And also part of your services you offer, what is the advice you have for the students for SAT preparation, and what are your services include in that as well? We would like to hear from you on that.
Well, with respect to my services, I provide coaching for SAT and the TOEFL examination,
Great.
both of them together. Most of this is scheduled only on the Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the Saturday evenings and Sunday mornings. So that's exclusively for SAT because most of these school-going students don't find any time across the school
That's
to
true.
come to.
That's true.
With respect to the relationship between financial aid and the SAT score, see, the scholarships are basically two categories. One is need based, the other one is academic achievement based.
Got it.
If it is a need based scholarship, the student needs to prove his needs about why he wants to get a scholarship. It's very rare for international students to gain need based
that,
scholarships. The only scholarships they would basically get is academic scholarships.
All right.
So that's basically dependent on a whole lot of factors, not just on the SAT score.
Thank you very much, sir. That was a very interesting session. I'm pretty sure not just the students, but the parents also would have learned a lot from this. And, the chat with you is always enlightening. Thank you for your valuable time
my pleasure.
and much appreciated. So, to our beloved audience, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel for many more such good content, and good luck for your future.